Gerald Bamberger. Today we're going to work a simulated multi-state bar examination type of problem in the area of torts. It's problem Torts2. You can find it on my website, www.profbamberger.com. If you haven't already worked problem Torts2, why not take a moment, pause this presentation, go over to www.profbamberger.com, spend about 1:45 minutes working problem Torts2, and then resume this presentation. Okay, I'm going to assume you've already worked problem Torts2 over at my website. The correct answer is choice A. Bob will likely prevail as to the ankle injury, but not as to the thumb injury. Here, Andy and Bob have gone to a bowling alley to bowl a few games. And Bob has gotten injured. As a matter of fact, Bob has sustained 2 injuries, both of which were sustained based on defective products that he picked up at the bowling alley. He has a thumb injury based on a defect in the bowling ball. He has an ankle injury based on a defect in the bowling shoes. And I'm going to explain to you why the bowling alley will be liable in strict products liability for the ankle injury, but not for the thumb injury. So there's a distinction between the bowling ball and the bowling shoes. The fact that there was a manufacturing defect in one and a design defect in the other is not significant. If the bowling alley were to be liable, it would be liable for manufacturing defects, design defects, or failure to warn defects. So the nature of the defect isn't what's important. What's important is, with respect to the particular item, was the bowling alley engaged in the sale or distribution of that item? And the answer will be yes with respect to the shoes, no with respect to the ball. Now, this problem was inspired by the third restatement of torts, products liability, in particular because if you go to the index of the third restatement, go to page, I think it's 351, look up bowling. You'll find under bowling alleys, bailments as commercial distribution, shoes and balls, and a reference to section 20, comment F. That's why I designed this problem, a strict products liability problem involving bowling shoes and bowling balls. However, if you go to comment F in section 20 of the third restatement, you will find absolutely nothing, at least I found absolutely nothing about bowling shoes. There is a case involving bowling balls. There's no case involving bowling shoes. So if you'd like to do a little detective work and send me an email, I'd love to know why the index talks about shoes and balls and the text itself talks only about balls. That's an exercise. In any event, bowling shoes can be analogized to roller skates, which are discussed in comment F of section 20. Just like when you go to a bowling alley to bowl a few games, you can rent a pair of bowling shoes. Similarly, when you go to a roller skating rink to do some roller skating, you can rent a pair of roller skates. In both cases, the roller skates, the bowling shoes, in both cases, there's a separate transaction in which you pay separately for that footwear. If there's a defect in that footwear, the bowling alley or the roller skating rink is going to be strictly liable for that defect. Why? They've put it in the stream of commerce. They are acting as lessor. They have charged you for that footwear in a separate transaction. They are essentially regular suppliers of that footwear. The bowling ball is a different matter altogether. In the bowling ball situation, you've got to know something about bowling. There's a little bit of a cultural bias in this question. You've got to be somewhat of a bowling aficionado to understand how bowling shoes and bowling balls are distributed in bowling alleys. But typically, you can come with your own bowling ball. If you don't have your own ball, similarly you could come with your own bowling shoes. But you could bring your own bowling ball to the alley. If you don't bring your own bowling ball, they supply bowling balls. They have them on the shelves, on the racks. You can take one if you choose. You're given no guidance in choosing a bowling ball, typically. The bowling alley doesn't charge you any separate fee for the bowling ball. Certainly you could bring your own bowling ball, and many people who regularly bowl do so that it's provided only as a convenience. It's entirely incidental to the use of the bowling alley. So on one end you have the bowling shoes, in which the bowling alley is acting as lessor, is putting these shoes into the stream of commerce, is engaging you in a separate transaction for the shoes. On the other hand, on the other extreme, if you will, you have the bowling balls, where they are supplied, they're left out there, you can take one if you wish. It's got nothing to do with the act of bowling. It's got nothing to do, you came to bowl, you want to bring your own ball, that's great. They're not going to peddle a ball to you. They're not going to sell a ball or rent a ball to you, but they will have some available for you. If there happens to be a defect in that ball, the bowling alley isn't going to be strictly liable. They haven't placed that ball in the stream of commerce. Remember the very beginning of the third restatement, Section 1, the first sentences of Section 1. Let me read them to you. Section 1 of the third restatement of torts, products liability. Liability of commercial seller or distributor for harm caused by defective products. One engaged in the business of selling or otherwise distributing products who sells or distributes a defective product. You've got to be a person normally engaged in the sale or distribution of products. You've got to be selling or distributing a defective product. The bowling alley is not selling or distributing the defective bowling ball. It's sitting over there. You can use it or not use it, incidental to the service of bowling, which is what the bowling alley is doing. With regard to the shoes, they're putting the shoes into the stream of commerce. They are distributing the shoes to you. So the correct answer is the bowling alley should be strictly liable for a defect in the shoes, not strictly liable for a defect in the ball. Let's try to expand on this just a little bit. Again, under Section 1, I'm only going to be liable in strict products liability if I'm a person who ordinarily puts this product into the stream of commerce. In other words, if I simply sell you my car based on a classified ad, and there's a defect in that car, you're not going to be able to sue me in strict products liability. Why? I'm an incidental seller. I'm not one who is engaged in the business of selling or otherwise distributing products. I'm a teacher, okay? I'm not involved in the sale of cars except incidentally, so I can't be sued in strict products liability for a defect in that car. Another example, if the product is incidental to a service. Now this is a little bit tricky. The easier cases are in a medical context. In a medical context, generally, the courts will find that the service dominates and the product is incidental. Great example is you go to a dentist. Again, you may find my examples a little bit extreme. You go to a dentist and the dental hygienist, for example, uses dental floss to clean your teeth. Perhaps there's a defect in that dental floss that causes it to go straight into your gum, causing you an injury. The dental floss is razor sharp. Now, can you sue the dentist on a theory of strict products liability? That dental floss is a product. It's been supplied to you in a sense, but it's incidental to the service of the dental hygienist. You're not going to be able to sue the hygienist on a theory of strict products liability. However, if the hygienist has a display with packages of dental floss, and on the way out, you purchase a package of dental floss from the hygienist, there you will be able to sue based on a defect in the floss. That's a separate transaction, again, and you've paid for it separately. It's not incidental to a service. Just one more item here and then I'll let you go. There would be a difficulty in this situation if the bowling alley didn't allow you to bring in your own ball. If the bowling alley required you to use one of the balls that they had on the rack, you might have a different result. Why? Because in that situation, really in order to use the service, it's integral that you use the ball. I'm not saying that that would necessarily be the result, but courts might look at it differently. In the Dixon case, the case which the restatement cites for the bowling ball situation, one of the 8 factors the Dixon court looked at was that it wasn't required for the plaintiff to use one of those bowling balls. Plaintiff could have brought in their own bowling ball. If you can't bring in your own bowling ball, then essentially, in order to use the bowling alley, they're essentially making you use their bowling ball. So for example, if you go to a restaurant where you can't bring in your own glassware, for example, if you have a glass of water, a glass of wine, and there's a defect in the glass, even though the supplying of the glass is incidental to the food service that the restaurant is engaged in, the restaurant will be strictly liable for a defect in the glass. So those cases are more difficult. However, traditionally in America, you go bowling, the bowling alley has the balls available for you, allows you to use your own ball. In that situation, it's purely a matter of convenience that the bowling alley is supplying the balls. They're not placing them in the stream of commerce. The bowling alley will not be strictly liable for a defect in the ball.